Thank you.
I am actually here. I came to support Cucuy because it's a representative of a part of our own population that has been forgotten by the Venezuelans themselves for too many years, and that now are victims of a very cruel regime, together with the mafias, the criminal groups that control my country. When Dr. Kent invited me to this, I never had any doubts, and I knew about Cucuy thanks to our friends on the SOS Orinoco that I admire greatly, has influenced me a lot to be here. I should say at the outset that it was very easy for me to talk about my country at any occasion. Imagine I was at one time the Minister of Tourism of Venezuela, or the Minister of Information, or Governor of Caracas, and then at the United Nations, we were defending people whose rights had been trampled, violated, when we had a democracy. So they would ask me to speak. It was so happy. It was happy. That is ended. Every time that I think that now, every time that we address a group is to ask something from them to help us, it's really very painful. When we were for so many years really committed to help the best causes of humanity. You know, listen to Miguel, to Cucuy. You can imagine the devastation of a very important area of our country. That specific area, I believe, is even bigger than Portugal, so you can have an idea. And there are no Walter Raleighs there. It's just a group of criminals together with the military. Sometimes I think it's a pity we don't have a King James there to put an end to their existence. I must say, Miguel, I want you to know why I'm also so close to the issue. When I was head of tourism in Venezuela, one of the members of my team, Alfredo Ascanio, convinced me that we were the greatest threat to the environment in Venezuela. I said, why? I said, because we have been so successful bringing people into the country that if we don't put some guidelines, they may destroy the environment. And he convinced me, and we negotiated with the United States Parks Department. And that's how the Caraima National Plan was born. It was born to give the guidelines for the development, preservation, and actually tourism where you emerge. That was the first one. Now, when you hear this plight of our people in the region, I have to ask myself, and who cares about it? Does the international community's interest? Is the United Nations interest? Is the UNESCO interest? They are partially informed, but not really committed to a real exercise in helping to cure. But of course, there's only one cure for this. The cure is the expelling the Venezuelan regime. While the Venezuelan regime is enthroned, the environment will be worse, and you can imagine the conditions for our own people are really horrendous. I made some noise when I was listening to Cucuy, and I want to give you an example that probably summarizes the human climate that the people in Venezuela live in. And I'm going to read you literally one paragraph of the narco head of the Venezuelan regime, Nicolás Maduro. He said the following 2 days ago: "We live a true historical process where children with terminal diseases must be sacrificed to save the revolution. They will be remembered in history as true heroes and patriots." If this is not a take from the Nazis and so forth, and this is the most abominable, horrendous statement, but anywhere, any place, anywhere, that probably summarizes, in my view, the inhumane system that we have in Venezuela. A country that has morphed into a narco state. You know, Pablo Escobar was never president of Colombia. El Chapo Guzman was never president of Mexico. But in Venezuela, The counterparts are the president, vice president, president of the Supreme Court. So actually, we have these thugs, these criminals, and people still ask us to negotiate with the government. When we don't have a government, we have criminal gangs that have appropriated, sequestered our own country. And what can we do? When you see the devastation of the region, when you see the human tragedy in my country, what do we hear? The European community, for example, recently reminded me of this great film called The Darkest Hour, when Lord Halifax tells Prime Minister Churchill to allow the Italian Mussolini to negotiate with Hitler the best terms for the rendition of Great Britain, to which Churchill saved the world by not obeying that. Well, now we have another Italian, the foreign minister of the European community, Ms. Mogherini, asking to use the European community to mediate with the narco regime. And I ask you, is this the way we should take it and accept it? And I repeat, the anti-Trump feelings in Europe, in many places, are hurting us. I don't care whether they like him or do not like him, but in this case, there's no other president in the United States have committed more to help us than President Trump. But this is beginning to dominate European politics, like if helping Venezuela will be in a way helping Trump. And that's really hurting us. The Europe of Maastricht watched for several years how the Muslim people in Bosnia were slaughtered, tortured, persecuted, and finally killed. I sat in a table more or less like this one in the Security Council, calling the attention of the world to what's really happening, while the main European countries that said, never again, at 2 hours away from London, 3 hours away from Paris, they allow the slaughter of a country, in the case of Bosnia. So I asked myself many times, who has so much moral authority and political power in the world to tell us that we should submit to any kind of crimes that are attempted against our people? Who has that moral power to tell the world that, for example, the Venezuelans, they don't need any extremist forces, but the Venezuelans needed to sit on the table, negotiate peacefully with narco criminals? Well, we look at this and wait. And that, of course, there is no answer to that. I remember the Prime Minister of Luxembourg at the time, Mr. Poos, said, this is the hour of Europe. And the hour of Europe was the destruction of a country, which was Bosnia. I hope we can find a better hour for our case. And when I see someone like Miguel, that belongs to the minority of the country, coming to defend our country in London, in the British Parliament, this is something that encourages me greatly. Thank you.
Yes.